What I'm not interested in doing is posing or pursuing some notion of American leadership or America winning or whatever other slogans they come up with that has no relationship to what is actually going to work to protect the American people.
Well, that was President Obama today defending his plan for taking on the terrorists in a news conference that ran almost an hour and was dominated by events in Paris. The president spoke from the G20 summit in Turkey and was forceful when it came to rejecting calls for the U.S. to change its strategy. Glenn Beck is here with reaction, but we begin with Chief Washington correspondent James Rosen.
Megyn, good evening. A setback, a terrible and sickening setback. That's how President Obama referred to the Paris attacks this morning. In an hour-long news conference capping the G20 economic summit in Turkey, the president flashed anger only once when he rejected Republicans' call to limit the number of Syrian refugees allowed into the U.S. However, Mr. Obama also expressed irritation at one point at the number of questions he was getting from reporters suggesting he had underestimated ISIS, the terror group he once called the JV team, and which he declared hours before the Paris attacks to be effectively contained in Syria and Iraq.
Some of them seem to think that if I were just more bellicose in expressing what we're doing, that would make a difference. Because that seems to be the only thing that they're doing is talking as if they're tough. But I haven't seen particular strategies that they would suggest that would make a real difference.
The president also defended his use of the term violent extremist groups, saying we should not define a terrorist problem as a Muslim problem.
You know, those kinds of stereotypes are counterproductive. They're wrong. They will lead, I think, to greater recruitment into terrorist organizations over time.
However, the president did also call on Muslim leaders around the world to start asking themselves, quote, very serious questions about how and why their children are infected with jihadist ideology. Megyn?
James Rosen, thank you. Joining us now with more, Glenn Beck, who is founder of The Blaze. Hi, Glenn.
I can't take it. I can't take it.
What do you mean?
First, this guy's judgment is off every single time. If I may, let me take you to my chalkboard real quick. You want to trust the president and what he's saying. Okay, good. Let's look where the president has been in the past. Remember the fruit cart guy? The fruit carts that set himself on fire in Tunisia? The president said that was Rosa Parks. So let me show you how we got to Paris. He sets himself on fire. That trips into the Arab Spring. The Arab Spring goes into the collapse of Libya. Because of the collapse of Libya, we have an immigration problem in Spain, Italy, and France. The migrants just start going over. We realize that because all these things are collapsing, we know that Syria is on the verge of collapse. We start running guns out of Benghazi into Syria. Because we run guns, we create ISIS. All of these decisions the president has championed. That causes the refugee crisis in Germany and France and all over Europe, and that's how we get to Paris. This guy's wrong every single time. Every time he's wrong. And when he says that we don't have a way to screen them, it's funny, Megyn, because we have a way to screen them. We have how many... Answer this, and I know you haven't done any research, but I know you're smart enough to figure this one out. How many Christian members of ISIL or ISIS are there?
Mm-hmm. I know that you've... Right, I know. And I know that you've set up a screening process yourself to try to get Christian refugees in particular.
And it's
but before we get to
simple.
the refugees, I want to ask you about this, because what the president said today was, look, basically, it's hard. And what he said was... when you're talking about the ability of a handful of people with not wildly sophisticated military equipment and weapons who are willing to die, they can kill a lot of people. And preventing them is challenging for every country.
Can I ask you a question, Megyn? How is it? You know where France got the coordinates of the big ISIS base that they just bombed? From us. How is it we had those coordinates and we didn't hit them if we were trying to destroy and run them into oblivion?
Now, Catherine Herridge was reporting here today that the number of airstrikes has actually diminished over the past month or so, and challenging the president's assertion otherwise in his remarks today.
Yeah, This is.
So what? His heart is not in it. Is that what you're saying? Like he doesn't want to fight this fight.
Stop guessing what the president has in mind or what he really wants or what he's trying to do. I'll just tell you this. For him to let Gitmo prisoners out this weekend, on this weekend, above all weekends, and then to say, I don't care what the governors say, I don't care what anybody says, we're gonna up, not just continue, we're gonna up our Syrian refugees here in the United States. That man is surrounded by behavioral scientists. He's always hiring more behavioral scientists to tell us exactly what to get out of the American people. What is it he's trying to get us to react to? How is he wanting us to react? Because I can tell you how the American people are wanting to react. Look at the support behind the anger of Donald Trump. They're reacting and they're very angry. What is the president doing? He's not listening to the people. Exactly the same thing that happened in France.
Well, and there's a question about whether he is listening to his advisors, because we had Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, who used to head up the DIA, basically the defense sister to the CIA, saying, read the damn intelligence. That's a quote.
Yes.
Read the damn intelligence, he's saying to the president. And at the same time, you've got a bunch of intelligence analysts coming out and saying, that's not the problem. We give them the intelligence, and then we're being told by the administration to change it so that it comports better with the narrative the White House wants out there.
Let me tell you this. James Clapper said, and this just happened on Sunday, if I have the exact quote, James Clapper just said that you just had a report that you had, 1,250 people that the FBI is watching? James Clapper says there are thousands of fighters that have traveled to Syria and returned to Europe, but the number being tracked here in America is only around 40. So which is it? Is it 1,250 or is it 40, Mr. President?